The main part of today is really getting you to understand the different layers of self and the different ways of connecting up, into your higher self. So it's going to be a bit of a deep dive information session, and there's some stuff that you might know and some stuff that you might not know. So let's go. And there's people still joining. Awesome. Okay, let's get into it. Here's something I prepared earlier. So beautiful. So if there's anyone joining, I'll just keep an eye out. So can everyone see my screen okay? Everyone can, yeah, beautiful. Thank you. It's always good to check. So the first part of, if you think about connecting with your higher self, firstly, you have to really deeply understand what it is. Because if you don't know what it is, how do you know how to connect with it is the first question. So there's this aspect of having a lot of reverence and a lot of understanding for what actually it is. And I'm hoping to break that down and make it sort of more tangible and easy for everyone to think about. Because if you can understand this concept, then it's easier for you to arrive there. So what is your higher self is the question. And the first way to think about it is the 7 layers. And I know that you've seen this before, some of you, but I'm going to present it in a slightly different way. So if you think about the 7 layers of the human energy field, higher self being the highest layer, which is why we want to connect with this part of ourselves. Then we have the spirit, which is the ball of light or the force that animates your physical body. So it's the one that goes through lifetimes and animates the avatar. So the Debbie Pask, oh, here's someone else just entering. The avatar that is Debbie Pask in this lifetime, in this country, on this planet, has electromagnetic energy. There's something that's animating me that I'm not plugged into a wall. So yeah, it's my spirit that they say that the spirit sits in the seat of the heart. Whether that's true or not, that's a common held belief. But it basically animates me into this lifetime as a ball of light, and it can go on and have other existences, which is slightly different to the soul body, which is my auric field, my energy system, my chakras, my consciousness, my experiences, and my ancestry. So just think of your soul like this beautiful field of energy that you have inherited memories from your ancestors. You also have this lifetime experiences that get gathered like a library of information. So my memories at school, my memories in my early jobs, my memories of love, my auric field, my whole system that operates this avatar is like my soul body. It's like this sea of energy that I swim around in. And then the superconscious is a bit of a bridge or a gateway. It's like the operating system to the rest of yourself. So if you think about coming into the other layers, which is subconscious, conscious, and obviously the subconscious and conscious are your mind. So think of the superconscious like that layer that sits in between. It's like the organizational energy, this intelligence that says, here's how to operate the body. So the soul, the soul is a energetic body, etheric body, and then the superconscious is like this operating system that says, hey, here's how we're going to work together. And then, of course, you've got your subconscious and conscious mind, and then your body. So think about these layers. There's this, we're so much bigger than we ever thought ourselves to be as a kid growing up. And they certainly didn't teach me this at school. And I really wish they had given me some ideas as to who and what I was and how my energy operates. So I'm going to go a deeper layer in a minute of this, but does anyone, based on what I've just said, actually, I'll do the second layer first and then we can open it up to questions, because if you understand this layering, you'll understand how to talk to your higher self. Your body feels sensations. So your body, let's start from the bottom. Your body is the feeler of sensations. It stores thought, memory, stresses, good times, bad times. It feels everything and stores it. So when people say the body holds the score, yeah, the body will hold and feel sensations. So sight, touch, taste, it's sensory, and it has its own operating system, its nervous system and its organs and cells. And I think we all understand the body somewhat. The conscious mind feels more linear in nature. So think about the conscious mind, the everyday working mind. It's like, I have thoughts and, project plans and language and typing on a computer. My beautiful conscious mind opened this Zoom and, invited everyone in today. The conscious mind created my PowerPoint slide I'm operating off. So it's more of a linear way of thinking and being. got to drive to school, my kids to school, I've got to drive to work, I've got to organize that plan, that party, that work. So that's the conscious linear mind. I don't hate the mind. The mind can be limited and programmable, of course. I don't dislike the mind. It's just that it's got more of a linear nature to it. It doesn't really solve intuitive problems. And it certainly gets very programmed. So the mind can trip you up. The next one is the subconscious mind feels more automatic and self-serving. And you probably already know this, but it's a really great way to explore it. So the subconscious mind is more automatic behavior. So if you drive to work the same way every day, you'll have that programmed and then you'll do it on autopilot. Often people talk about autopilot. We can have a lot of issues in the subconscious mind because if we've got learned behavior, then of course, we just replicate not so great behavior, but we also replicate great behavior. I think the subconscious mind helps us, regulate and do things every day that we don't even know we're doing, how to cook, how to drive, how to operate things. So I love the subconscious mind in that it does work for us, but if there's something tricky in there, it'll work against us. So that's these are probably things you already know. The superconscious feels organizing. It's like the operating system. It's sort of compartmentalized. It organizes information. So it's intelligent. It starts to, put things into patterns and it's sort of like this is how the body works. This is how the mind works. It's like an organizing energy. It's quite intelligent. So you can actually give instructions directly to the superconscious. Hey, superconscious, do this for me now. Or you can it's like an operating system. You can program it. You can have a conversation. Like I said, it's a bit of the gateway between the soul and the mind. It's sort of that middleman that takes non-logical, non-linear instruction from the field and then pulls it down into the body and the rest of us. So it's definitely an organizer. The soul feels like it's like a conscious access to the field. So the soul body feels the field. So when we say, we get like our spidey senses or we're feeling things out there or we feel the energetic residue or, it's like our psychic senses in some way. It's the way that we interact with the field around us. So when I come into co-relationship or contact with my horse, our two etheric fields are touching. If I was to give you guys a big hug, like our two etheric fields would come together, our two soul body fields would come together. We can understand fractures through the chakra system. That's part of the soul body, the chakra system. I can have strong or weaker chakras in my system. And if you don't know what a chakra is, that's another whole course, but all the different energy points down your body. So that's a really interesting way of thinking about it. It's like how you access and walk around in the field. Now, your soul body walks around in the field every day, and it's picking up stuff and it's registering stuff, and it's like a little mechanism of itself. Unlike the spirit, which is like that spark of life, it's that life force energy, it's that spark, that fire, that passion, that animation. It's like I'm living, breathing, and I'm part of it's a fractal of the higher self. So I'll explain that in a minute, but it's that part of you that goes, oh, I'm going to come down and have a physical lifetime in an avatar called Debbie in Australia or in this country, this earth. It's that little curious, beautiful, learning, evolving ball of light that goes through, different iterations. So it's more like a spark of life. So when you talk to your spirit, it's more like the thing that's decided to have a contract come down and have an experience in this body. So spirit is a beautiful connection to have, but it still it still has not the full gamut of information. It's got this lifetime and past lifetimes, but where we're talking about the higher self is this is neutral. This is a neutral energy. It's like a guardian-like master observer neutral energy. I often refer to it as the higher mind because you've got lower mind, day-to-day mind, which is limited with its programs. Limited doesn't mean bad. Limited just says there's a limitation to it. The higher self has endless knowledge. And a little bit like that slide previously, it is like a drop. It's the drop in the ocean, but it's the ocean itself in a way. It's sort of this overarching awareness, and I'll go into a deeper layer, but this is sort of what it feels like. So when you really want those clear, neutral messages that don't have any subjective, because even the soul, right? Like your soul body is picking up information from this field. It's not the most wise thing, either is the spirit, although the spirit's pretty amazing. The higher self is like, I've come from the void. I'm everything in some ways. And I've chosen to have a part of myself, a fractal, a holographic fractal, which means it's got a piece of everything, to come down and have a life as a spirit in a body. So before I keep going on about the higher self, I'm happy to answer, like I'm trying to give you how it feels and what it's like and the difference. And I hope that's given it enough explanation. I haven't actually done a slide like this before, so it forced me to sit down and go, how would I describe the difference between the layers? Does anyone want to ask anything or type into the chat? Yes, Emma, you can either unmute or type the chat. I don't mind.
I'll chat if that's okay.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, just a quick question around the spirit and higher self, and without giving away, too much of the course. But I know when I've been doing the energy medicine sessions with people, I ask spirit of this being, do I have permission, etc., etc. So,
That's
is there a
accurate.
reason? Is there a reason why we ask spirit instead of higher self?
Yes,
Or
there is. Yes, there
okay.
is. Because you're asking spirit, because that's in this lifetime. That's the animated lifetime. If you ask higher self, it would like, would you want me to call on everything that the universe ever knows forever? Do you know what I mean? So
Okay, yeah.
that's why you're asking spirit, because that's really what you're talking to in most healing sessions, or even like, if someone's having a breakdown or a stroke or something, you wouldn't say higher self, you'd say spirit, take control of your vehicle, the body. Like, I want to
Mm.
talk to the spirit of this person. That's what you're really interacting with at that higher level most days. But there is a higher self aspect, which is more about decisions and advice and neutrality, which you can go above the spirit. But I would say the spirit answers 90% of most stuff.
Okay, beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Cheers.
Yeah, because you want to deal with this lifetime. One of the most hilarious questions that's come up in my awareness of spiritual growth in the movement is, I want to like communicate with the dimensions on the Pleiadian star system of the seventh dimension or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, why don't we just start talking to your dog, or why don't we start like connecting to a tree? Like we are here, we are a spirit in this lifetime, in this avatar, in this planet. So mastering that first feels natural to me. Let's master our energy while we're here and we know what we're doing. And then if you feel like you want to expand the concentric rings out to galaxies and universes and whatever, go for it. But even past lives, like let's just experience what it's like to be here in this lifetime now. Yeah, so that's why we ask spirit. Yeah. Cecilia, where does intuitive messages come from? I would suggest that they're brought through the spirit. But the soul body will understand and talk the language of the quantum, if that makes sense. So the soul body is kind of like bringing in information through the field. And that's why like you have your physical senses, like which we go into in a little bit. But the soul body is like feeling the field and understanding the energy of the field. And then it might organize it into the superconscious, but that's where you're sort of getting the language come through, but the spirit is what really is bringing through those intuitive messages. Yeah, kind of it gets murky, of course, and but it's there's sort of a flow to it. So if I'm working on ancestral issues, I'll be going through the soul body. The spirit has a different set of ancestors in every lifetime. So if I'm working on ancestral stuff, I'm working on the soul body. If I'm working with past life, I'm working with the spirit. It's had the other lifetimes. If I'm working on this lifetime issues, it's probably the soul body and a bit of the spirit. But you know what I mean? Like it's about where are you going to for the information. Yeah. Anyone else got any? Why would we access the higher self? I'm about to tell you. Thanks, Kim. Next. So what is really then what is your higher self? It's like a fractal of what I would call solar or sun energy. It's all wise and knowing. It is the ultimate, like it's neutral though. So it's not got an agenda necessarily. It's saying I'm a fractal of me that has come down to experience a physical body, a spirit, and a physical being. But there's definitely a guardianship, a master observer energy to it. It's like a higher guardian master observer to self, and what I would call as a record keeper, because it knows, it's got that big picture view. It's almost like it's popped its head above the horizon, and it's kind of got this like universal view. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But if you think about it, it understands creation energy the best, because it is that whole gamut. It understands everything. And I would suggest that the higher self is the most calmest, clearest, neutral place to hang out. It reminds me, like when you go into higher self connection, you're almost kind of in that void space. It's very calm, it's very clear, it's very neutral. So it's to me, it feels like if you really want like calm, clear, peaceful state, that's where you're going. So if you think about it, um, the human mind and the soul can get excitable. Even the soul can, but the human mind, it can get busy and needy, and it can repeat. So you always know you're working from the mind when you ask yourself the same question again and again. Should I do that? Should I do that? What if? Or if you repeat a conversation in your head with someone you've had 10 times, that's you definitely in the mind. It's more emotional. It's more prone to getting bounced around by your life. However, the higher self doesn't get bounced around. It's sort of sitting up there going, yeah, I'm sitting up here pretty zen. Do you want to come up and hang out? Knowing, neutral, quiet, clear. It's definitely got that element of being calm and clear and knowing. And my thought around this is, why do you want to access it? Well, firstly, why wouldn't you want a guru to have a conversation with? But bigger life decisions can sometimes be quite important, like higher self. I want to access that, and we'll talk about how to do that in a minute. Perspective, the high awareness, is this true for me? There's a really beautiful saying I talk about later, that especially if you're in healing work, but sometimes if you're sort of getting an intuitive message and you go, oh, is that my mind or my spirit? You can say, I often say higher self, I always click, and it's an anchor for me. Is this true for me? Is this, and you'll find that you'll get a clearer message. Like if you start to ask and activate it, it's like, oh, okay, you're calling on it. Think about it. Think about how simple a call is. Think about a cat meow for a mother cat, or a baby's cry for a mother, or when you call, like your higher self is like your ultimate guardian of you, but it's part of you, so it's not a separate. But think about how, when you call out like higher self, it's like you're kind of saying step in, and when you do that often enough and repeat that often enough, it starts to realize you want to have a dialogue. Awareness is the key. I want to have a dialogue with you. It's like, they say that people, when they're running a race, if they know what the best time is, they try and beat that time. And as soon as someone beats the time and runs that race quicker, the next person does it more easily, because it's possible. They know it's possible. So you need to start to realize what's possible and that you can actually do this. Lexi's asked, when we are in deep meditation, are we in our higher self? Sometimes. Yeah, you can get it. You can get there. We're actually going to do one to put you into to actually have a conversation with your higher self, but not always. It depends on your intention. Remember our universal law of intention. Do you want to meditate at what level? You can just go inward. You can go into the void. You can go into more of just a connection to your spirit, or you can go higher self. It's intention. Yes, the higher self is source, all knowing. Yes, Emma. Yeah. When we're in the mind going on and on to ask, to access the higher self. So when we are in the mind, sorry, I don't know who iPhone is, but maybe state that more clearly. Yes, we do ask to access the higher self for sure. I'll talk about the barriers to accessing it in a minute, because you can have barriers to accessing that. Yeah, it's like a guardian angel for sure, but it's not an angel, but it's a guardian angel. Yeah, that's okay. Oh, Nicole, no worries. If you want to ask it again, I'll totally read it out again. So if you think about, peacefulness, I think it's very peaceful to connect into that space. It feels wave-like a waveform. It doesn't feel structural. It feels wave-like. Definitely unification and unity. So, you can have trauma come through in a past life with the spirit. If you think about it, like if you've had a past life that's traumatizing, that echo can come through with a spirit essence. We know that. That's why we do past life regression. Guess what? Trauma doesn't go into the higher self. It just doesn't have it because it's not down here happening in a human experience. So I think, what's really interesting with what's going on in the world, there's a lot of chaos and a lot of conflict and a lot of issues going on in the world. I feel like, and there's a time for action and of course backing things, but there's also a time for like rising above and having a big picture viewpoint and seeing things that are a bit more unified. And I believe that sitting in meditation with higher self does that, or accessing it does that more so. I'm most at peace when I'm in that meditative state with higher self. And obviously transcending multidimensional life patterns. So, like I said, it doesn't hold and store fracture and trauma. It's whole. There's a wholeness about it. And the sooner we believe that we are bigger than our fractures, we are bigger than what's supposedly broken in us, as soon as we start understanding and digesting properly that concept, the more we start to kind of realize that we can rise up out of or lean into and come through some of our limitations. And like I said, in if you're doing healing work, I love asking that. So if I'm doing some healing work with someone and I'm like, oh, is this what's going on for the person? This is what I'm getting. Like sometimes I'll take that breath to surrender. If you've done our training, you'll know what I mean by that. Is this true for me, or is this true for this person? And sometimes I'll ask the higher self of the person. I'll say, oh, higher self, is this true? And then you get I get a really clear message, and start practicing it. And at first you might get nothing, and then soon you'll get a clear message. Like I said, it's about saying, I am intending to dialogue with that information, that part of me or person. So this is what I'm doing. Sometimes it's just about you having clear boundaries if that's what you're doing. Yeah. So, is there anything you want to ask? I'm going to keep going. I've got quite a few more things to talk about how to get there. But does anyone have any questions on what I've just said or want to type a chat in? Is this useful for everybody? Is this it's becoming good? I'm hoping it's useful. Mariette, which field embodies our godlike nature? Yeah, that's the higher self. I mean, the spirit does have that creation energy, but that full like universal nature, godlike power, that's definitely higher self. So just a thought around your inner critic versus your higher mind, because your inner critic is the low vibrational mind that gets you stuck. So I've talked about this in my coaching class, but just think about this: your day-to-day ego and your thinking mind, language, plans, logic. It's great. I love the day-to-day mind. It gets me by. It does lots of beautiful, lovely executions for me. It books my Zooms out. It does all kinds of emails. It's very cool. Like it. Happy relationship to my mind. Until if my mind or ego can't sort something out, a lot of our human defaults, as we know, it comes back to the inner critic. So what happens in our brain? Our brain likes to stay in control and command. And I get that. We're survival beings and it wants to be in control and command. And, we don't want an out of control brain for sure. But what happens is if we can't solve a problem in that limited programmable mind that we already know, our inner critic often jumps in. And I call it the judge, the jury, and the executioner, meaning it starts to go, why can't you do that? Or you didn't do that properly. Or it starts to kind of nitpick on what you have or haven't done well. And the reason it does that is, I believe, and I know this is popular in a lot of mind-based theory, but I believe it's like it doesn't want to lose control. It's almost a bit embarrassed or doesn't want to lose control. So it has to sort of go, I'm going to separate myself from the ego. That's the lowly little mind down there. You haven't done a good enough job. And it becomes kind of like a fear-based judge, and which is very destructive, as we know. Now, the reason I'm talking about this is because that is your biggest block to accessing your higher self. So if you want to talk about being able to access your higher self, if your inner critic gets in the way, it'll go, oh, you're not talking to your higher self. Who are you to think that you can be that? Like it'll just talk that language to you because it doesn't want to lose control. So what you've really got to do is when you have your day-to-day ego working and operating and you come across a problem, the idea is to consciously bypass the inner critic if you can, and then access what we call the higher self or the higher mind. So, and what is that higher mind or higher self? It's kind, it's calm, it's reflective, and it's the kind of thing where if you get stuck in the ego, the day-to-day thinking, and you've got a problem, it's the kind of thing where it'll ask you, what is this teaching you? How are you evolving through this? What are you learning? What are you understanding? Because the higher mind is a learning, it wants you to learn. It's like saying, well, I've sent you down. There's a fractal of me that's come down into from a spirit, a ball of light. It's come into an avatar that's got a soul body and all these complex parts, kind of sending you down for a learning experience. You know, your creation energy, you're here to learn and evolve. So your higher mind or self will ask you questions like that. It will say, why don't you sit in not knowing? Maybe that's the lesson. Why don't you just set the mind aside? Maybe that's the lesson. What is this pattern teaching you that's happening again and again and again that you need to know? So you know that you're in more of a higher mind state when you're thinking kindly and objectively and more neutrally about what is challenging you in your life. It doesn't mean that you can't have those raw emotions and get annoyed and upset and cranky and have a breakdown and a dummy spit. You know, I have had those before in my past and they're fun and crying or whatever I need to do. And then after that, I'm like, right, rather than spin around for the next few months going, oh, you sucked at that or you failed with that or why can't you do that? That's when you go, oh, let's look at what's this challenge showing me? What's the law of attraction showing me? And so the intention is how to get into that mind. So it's higher mind is really good for reflections, decisions, responses. It's one of the best tools in your toolkit to overcome the critical mind. It's often called the higher mind as opposed to lower or higher self. And our goal is to train ourselves to jump straight into the higher mind when challenged in ego. Or if we do want to have those emotional outbursts and issues, then like actually state to yourself, right now it's time to jump into that mind. And the language is different. It's very different. Caroline's asked, I often ask the higher mind, how true is that? Similar to the, yeah, great. So yeah, that's a good question. How true is that? Or is this true for me? So it's got a different energy to it. It's calm. It's not rushed and it's not excitable. And it's not negative. It's not necessarily that it's like cheerleading you going, hey, you're doing a good job. That's kind of not what it does either. It's just this observing, calm, elder that probably sits quite quietly until it's asked. And so our job is to ask it. That's our job. Anyone got any questions on that before we talk about access points? Beautiful. So where does it exist in terms of location? Well, it's both a state, and I want to be really clear on this. It's both a state, so it's a state of feeling into it, like a state of being. So it's definitely a slower brainwave state. It's a state of like being calm and connected to yourself. And it's also in some ways a place, like it is a place that you arrive at. So it's kind of both. And if you think about concentric rings of energy, like when you go out, you start to feel energy all around you. It's like you're entering a different frequency. It's a bit like a radio station. So you change the radio station. If you start changing the dial, the state of yourself, you dial it down or up, then you'll change place, i.e. radio station. So it's a little bit like, and I put this white room down there as just this idea of this neutral, peaceful, like place that you arrive in. So when we do our meditation, you will I will actually talk you up to a cliff and actually give you a simple way of meeting it, like it's a person, even though it's not, just to get you started. But yeah, it's both a state, an inner feeling, and a place. And the feeling is that peaceful, aware, uplifted, higher perspective space, which is often why shamanically, if I'm going to journey anyone, I'll use a mountain, because a higher perspective up as opposed to below ground, which is all about shadow. And the place, like I said, it is an inward layer. It's going into a place, and I would say it's inward. And in fact, that's kind of well, actually, it's the next slide. It kind of feels waveform like that. So how does it feel in this place? It feels wavy, no structure. It feels a bit like an ocean. So it doesn't feel, there's not a lot of form in there. It's more wave-like. Um, it feels loving, even though it's not, it's neutral, but there's like an omnipresent sort of, it is a vibration of what do you want, creation energy. It's not a negative dark energy, but it's also, like I said, it's not, there's not kind of an agenda there other than you're here to have an experience as a creative being. But it does feel guardian like in that it's got a presence and it's very present. So that's how it feels to be in this state, in this place. So when you arrive there, you're not sitting there in meditation, having this kind of form-led place. I am going to give you one that helps you get there. But when you actually start to regularly connect with it, it doesn't feel like form. In fact, the idea is to go inwards deep enough and then kind of upwards, if that makes sense, because there are different layers to you. So, when you go in, it's like you go in through the layers to find that inward layer of peacefulness and slowness. And then you kind of almost feel like you're going up, as if there's like an upwards feeling. That's always how it feels to me. And that does make sense based on what I know about the dream weave, where we go down into earth to go into subconscious and mind and body, and we go up to sort of access our spirit. So the way that we access it as humans, how I've done it before a lot and how a lot of my peers do it, is it's like inward and there and up. So have a think about that as a concept, just to give you some parameters. Kim's asked, does it speak cryptically? Not purposely. Not purposely, it doesn't speak cryptically, but maybe sometimes our conscious mind, being linear in nature, doesn't always understand the messages. I would say that your spirit talks more in your spirit and your soul body talk more in signs, signals, different kind of quantum language, and your higher self tends to be really simplistic. Yeah. But again, I wouldn't talk to my higher self to discuss past lives. I'd talk to my spirit, which has been through those lives directly with direct experience. Not saying the higher self doesn't have the record of all of those. It's more just, yeah, think about where you're drawn to accessing information. It's like a little bit like you access different information from your body than you do your mind or your partner or your dog or a tree. It's about reading and sensing and accessing information. All right. I'm going to start to talk about how to get in there a little bit more clearly and what blocks you from getting in there, and a little bit how to think about it. So before I start that, does anyone want to ask anything? You're all good. Um, Firstly, we've got to deal with the blocks and barriers as we layer inwards, because if you think about it, every time we develop ourselves and experiencing ourselves as energy or multidimensional beings, we do hit walls of shadow, right? As we lean inwards, we'll hit I've put a black door here. It feels like that. Sometimes you hit a wall of shadow where there's a blockage there or something that's irritating you. And I'll talk about what they are in a minute. But, it's not just like, oh, one day I'm sitting here and the next minute I'm talking to my higher self. There is a journey of us going through our blocks and barriers and walls. For example, if you've got a really busy mind that can't slow down and you haven't learned to wrangle your mind, if you haven't learned around how your mind takes you over and you can't slow your thoughts, good luck talking to the higher self. Like literally, you have to be in a space where you have some command over your mind, your thoughts, your mindfulness, your peace. So yeah, meditation or some sort of slowing down, and to start to be aware that your mind is not you. It's part of you. Your thoughts and emotions come from you, but it's not all of you. So if you don't understand that about yourself, if you don't understand how to like change your brain state from a beta to an alpha and lower, then you will have difficulties accessing that higher mind. If you constantly let your inner critic guide you and tell you you're not good enough and you're not going to get there, and that's your limiting belief, guess what? You won't get there. So there's this aspect of, yeah, there is a way of working through. So when you do enough work on yourself and you realize these are programs and that they're programs of the mind and social and cultural programming and this planet that can sometimes be wonderful and sometimes devastating, when you realize that and you work through some of these blocks, you are going to free up more mental real estate, more peacefulness, more awareness, and more space. Because if you're like chronically talking badly to yourself all the time, there isn't a space to go, oh, I can now go up to the higher mind. And it's a little bit like a gym workout. I mean, it's like going into the gym and going, I'm going to start bench pressing 100 kg on the bar, but I haven't started anything, or I haven't even started on like basic hand weights or core strength or tries or buys or whatever. It's literally that simple. There is a development and rite of passage we go through as a spirit as we work on ourselves and understand ourselves and learn to have space. Can't even tell you how important space is. So if you can't sit silently and peacefully with yourself and love your own company and sit in your own space, you'll have a really big hard time going up to that super version of yourself. And if you allow other people to hijack you or yourself, but especially others, if you're constantly bouncing around the world, letting other people hijack you, and that what that means really is if people are affecting you to the point where you can't let it go, or you feel responsible for something, or you have an ongoing like altercation with others, or someone was saying to me yesterday in a course that they get really bad road rage. I'm like, you're getting hijacked. Like, yes, we've all had annoyances being cut off in traffic or people doing stupid things driving. But if you're then stewing on it and it's building up pressure and tension and you're actually doing road rage on the road, then, and that's not a bad thing, by the way, but if you are, you're getting hijacked. So if you're getting hijacked all the time and your mind's getting distracted, or you're not good enough, or you can't have space in your mind, then it's going to be really hard for you to access your higher self. And it doesn't mean that you don't have complicated thoughts. We all have them. I'm going to be perfect. I'm not suggesting that you have no flaws. I have plenty. And, you can still access it. But if you've got too many in there, it's like it's too full. The lift is too full to go up, if that makes sense. So practice, practice, practice. So you want to get into that state and place. I can't even tell you enough about practice. You go into the state and the place. You find that inner state, which then arrives you at a different place in your energy field. So it's like you're visiting someone's home or a park, but you're doing it internally. You're coming to a different place within you. So that's, if you really want to get good at it, you have to start like regularly either meditating with yourself or doing something where you find that state or place, or you start dealing with some of these shadows that are getting in your way. People that have done energy medicine room training with us, that's easier to access it in there. I would say that when you've created your own quantum healing container, it generally magnifies your ability to go up. So if you actually do have done that training with us and you do know how to go into your medicine room, then yeah, start in there. You may even have a space in your quantum healing container where you sit, and then that's your space to travel up and talk to your higher self or go up the layers, and you start to practice moving through those layers. And you actually say to yourself, I'm going to move through subconscious, conscious mind, up into super conscious. I'm going to like feel my etheric body. Then I'm going to like think about the ball of light animating me. And then I'm going to go into this fractal of everything, like this almost this sun that I've come from. And that would be a great place to do that in there if you've got that tool. Just remember that we all have psychic senses, right? So one of our psychic senses is clairsentience, that feeling state. And if you think about it, you don't think your way to your higher self, you feel it, you connect to it. So you end up having this beautiful connection going upwards. So you feel it. It's more of a feeling state. And you know when you're there because it feels wave-like and it feels calm and neutral. And you don't think, you're not connected to a body, you're not connected to a mind, you're not connected to a lifetime. You're feeling like an expansiveness. So it is a feeling. So when you learn the language of the quantum field, it's easier. I'm going to say that again. When you learn the language of the quantum field, it's easier to get there. You know yourself as a metaphysical being. You're multidimensional. You have to know that, because if you don't know that, then it's like saying there's a gym, 3 blocks away hidden in the forest. Go find it. Like, you need to know it's there. So you go searching. It's almost like you need to seek it. And that Rumi quote's so brilliant. What you seek is seeking you. As you seek your higher self, it seeks you back, meaning there's a natural universal law of energy of, oh, I want to be in a relationship with it. a little bit like if you're seeking a new friend or a new creative class, or you're seeking love in the world, you have to put it out there and say, I'm seeking to go out there and do something, and therefore it'll find me back. So if you look at your original senses and your intuitive senses, if you think about these quantum senses that you have, clairvoyance, I can see; clairaudience, I can hear; clairsentience, I can feel. Think of all of those senses being your gateway, like a gateway drug, but a good one. So think about you. Physical senses, see, hear, touch, taste, all of those things that we can do physically. Great. We already operate and do those things every day in the world. They're already on board. The next layer out in your field, this is your energetic field, is your metaphysical senses, whether it's clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience. I love claircognizance, which is just the dropping of knowledge. You suddenly just know. That's a brilliant one. Or clairalience, you smell what's not there, but you know it's there. James and I have had a very interesting experience of a spirit jumping into our car one time when we were driving, and we smelt the most insane cigar smoke I've ever smelt. I'm like, no one's smoking in our car. We've never smoked. There's a cigar smell. And I'm not very clairalient. Like, I don't really smell. I do smell cancer on people, but I don't really wouldn't say that's my strongest sense. And I had this extreme cigar, and James said at the same time, "Could you smell smoke?" And we're like, yes. And then we sort of felt this presence in the back of our car. And I kid you not, it was like a sailor with a pipe, like an old man. And we both went, oh my God, he's drowned in this area and he's still earthbound. And the smell of smoke was nothing I've ever smelled before. I'm like, that's impossible, but it is possible. So whatever energy he wanted us to pick up on, we could smell the smoke. So don't be afraid to dabble with all of the different senses that you have, because you have a lot of different energetic senses. And the more you switch them on, the more you connect with them, the more you're going to access your higher self. Because the next level out, once you're talking to the field with these clair senses, the next level out is what I call multidimensional concentric rings of energy. So you know yourself to be an energy source, you know your cat or dog or horses to be an energy source, the energy of your house, the energy of the land, the energy of your friend network, an office building, a park, the suburb you live in. We have an energy concentric ring of the energy around my house where I live. I'm surrounded by bush. If you haven't put yourself on mute, can you do so? I could just hear some background noise. Yeah, so this multi-dimensional sort of energy, that's the next level out. So when you start to play with these senses, you can sort of hear and feel the field. And then, of course, you then start to go, oh, now I can notice when I'm walking in different pockets of energy. And as soon as you start to realize there's different states and places of energy, then you are the drop in the ocean. Yeah. So you are the one drop in this huge ocean. That's the higher self level. So think about it. I'm physical senses, my metaphysical language to the universe around me. Then I'm starting to realize I can change state and energy through radiance and force. And then as I go out and into different pockets of myself and the world, I then realize that I can get up to this higher self state. Now, it's not something that you want to do all the time, every day. You don't want to live in your higher self. You want to live right here in your body, and you want to have access to all these gifts and talents that you can have around you. And we've talked about why. Why would you want to do that? Well, it's guidance, guardianship, universal peace, unification, higher guidance. So I've learned a long time ago not to ask anyone else, to ask my higher self. It's got my best intention, because it's not only is it somewhat neutral, but it's like I'm a fractal of it. So it's actually all of me in all the different dimensional forms. Anyone want any questions? How are ways we can do it? Well, I'll talk about that in a minute, Lexi, because there's lots of ways, but I'll talk about that in a sec. But is there anyone else that wants to ask what I just said? Anything about what I just said? If you've just joined this talk, you are literally 45 minutes in, so you might have missed the beginning. So yeah, no worries. Joy. If you've got to go, you've got to go. So yeah, so for everyday life or as a healing practitioner, you can start to just have that straight up command, that direct communication. So if you're doing healing work or if you're really connected into that, higher self, is this true for me? That's a good question. Or if something negative happens in your life, a good way to respond to that, if you can, even if you have like a moment of difficulty, higher self, what is my lesson or evolution here? I mean, you can ask spirit as well, but I mean, I don't know, maybe go higher. What is my lesson evolution? What is the energy that I'm meant to experience? Because think about it, higher self, a fragment of you, a source energy, your spirit, a ball of light has come down to have this experience in the avatar. So yeah, what is my lesson evolution? You could even get creative with it in your meditation and ask, what am I here to creatively be and do and experience here? Because, that's from that master sort of energy that you've come from. So that's important. So there is a meditative exercise. I'm actually going to record it for you and actually send it for you to do for yourself. I was thinking about doing it live, but it's at least 20 minutes and I want you to experience it for yourself. And I'm going to explain what it is. It's I'm going to talk you into alpha mind, and then I'm going to actually get you to go in and up through the layers of self. So you're going to start in your body and go up through in and then up through the layers. And you are going to meet your higher self on a mountain. And I'm going to do it in a way that it feels like it's a person or an all-knowing energy or guardian, but it is actually just a fractal of waveform. But I'm actually going to actually give you an exercise to talk to it, and then you can ask a question that you have. So start thinking about what question or how you'd like to converse with your higher self. It's something that I constructed a little bit of time ago, and yeah, I think it'd be a really fun exercise for you to do. So if you want to get into the mode of regularly visiting your higher self, it's a really good exercise to go in and up. Of course, if you just want to do it yourself and find your own way up to your higher self, you can. But this is a really good practice, especially if you're not used to doing it and you need something a little bit more structured. Like everything, you need to start with structure, and then eventually those train tracks fall away and you find your own way in. Lexi was asking, yeah, we do have a course you could do. For those of you that haven't done it, it's a self-paced one, but it was live originally. James and I did it like quite some time ago, so we look a little bit younger on the videos. You might see our cute little 40-something-year-old faces on those videos. We're hitting 50 in about 5 days. So both of us at the same time, pretty much. But if you want to access your higher self, you do need to actually start utilizing this. If you're in our healing classes, you're already doing it. Thanks for the cake. Yeah, you're already doing it. You're already, starting this. But what we did originally with this class was we recorded 7 classes of presenting what are all the intuitive senses available, how to develop them, how to utilize them, and there's different ways in, and it's still a powerful class to do to really up your level of understanding of how to actually do intuition, because that is, like I said, it's one of the first layers. One of the first layers to develop. And then now, question time. So really, and I'm going to open up the last bit of this class to question time as to what you might want to ask directly, and then you'll get your meditation at some point to practice. So do we have any exciting questions that you'd like to ask? Christina, when we are reading tarot oracle cards, is that us connecting to our higher selves? If your intention, that is, yeah. Usually when you're reading, if it's for yourself, or is it for yourself or someone else? Because if it's for someone else, normally you're connecting in with their spirit. But if it's for yourself, then yeah, you could intentionally say, higher self, I want a message to come through. Yeah, you could do that. Yeah. Emma, can we trust our feelings? Oh, yeah, that's a good question, Emma. What I would say about your emotions is they come from you. You're accountable for them, but they're not all of you. So yes, you can trust them to give you. It's like a tracking of how you're feeling and operating, and really your emotions are telling you how well you've been hijacked or not. If you're really emotionally disgruntled, then you're being hijacked. If you're emotionally happy, then you're probably more in heart rhythm coherence and frequency. So the heart does like to be happy. It likes to be in coherence. So your emotions are a good barometer of how well you're doing. So if you are in a negative emotion, the first thing I ask is it mine or someone else's? It's the first thing I ask. Is it mine or someone else's? Because sometimes it's just universal energy or friends or partners. And then if you ascertain it's yours, that's when you could get clever with it and say, is there something that's just happened that's created that? What is the shadow? Or um, higher self, what am I learning here? Or what's going on that I need to understand? They're almost just like a little scale that's showing you how your life is going. Yeah. I do think there are biochemical responses in the body that can happen, like hormonal changes and stuff like that, that can affect you as well. But again, it's about being aware enough to step out of them and being on top of it, and being on top of what's going on. Because I felt really disgruntled yesterday about something and I felt really off. I was like, what am I so off about? Like, I don't normally feel this way. And I just stepped away from it. And then I was just watching it. I'm like going, oh, there's some sort of thing playing out down at that level. I'm just going to sit above it a little bit, and you rise above it and just kind of let it play out. If I thought it was really big and shadowy, I'd probably have a deeper look at it. Yeah. Yes. So for ourselves, Christina, if you're reading for yourself, yeah, why not? You can choose. Yeah, you can choose to talk to your higher self. Why not? Higher self, I want a message of, and be clear. The more clear you are, the better. Clear commands. Like, I want a message about anything. Well, that's going to be interesting, isn't it? Higher self, I want a message about, or I want to connect with, this. What I would say is, it sounds weird to say it, but higher self probably isn't too concerned with day-to-day junk in your life. Maybe, it's sort of those bigger perspectives and questions. So higher self, should I go on a date with that man or not? I don't know. Maybe go on the date and just see what the law of attraction is delivering you. But of course you can ask it anything. Murray, in the midst of busy work, you ask a question and you feel the spaciousness and quietness. All of a sudden, you're in tears of this strength. Yeah, for sure. It could be. Absolutely. If you suddenly feel really spacious and you step out of it, yeah, that could be that for sure. Yeah. Why don't you ask it? Higher self, is this the state and place I'm in? It's hard for me to know how you're feeling internally. Anyone else need to ask anything that they want to unmute because it's a long question? Who has a better understanding of higher self now and the difference between the other layers? Yeah, it's really important. I do think there's a language. One of the things I've learned in my long career in this field is if the more you understand something, the model of it and the links, the better it integrates into your cells. Because you can know something in a feeling state, but to have a model or something where you tangibly can see and link and make it work, your mind then takes it in on a neural level and then it can kind of go through your field. But if your mind gets really confused, because we still have a mind, right? We can't separate that we have a mind and a supercomputer in our head, and we can't ignore that. So I'm a big fan of bridging these two worlds. So if you understand something conceptually through the mind, then it opens up a gateway more into spirit. I really believe that. It's not just, oh, I'm just going to sit in meditation all day and get everything. I have had the best breakthrough sometimes when I've been taught something by a really wise person and then it's clicked and then it's opened up my ability to journey better. And I will say that I don't just get everything from source, like, oh, I'm just going to sit and meditate everything. I'll get told something or I'll hear something and it'll stand out. And then I integrate it. It's like I ingest it. And then I'm like, oh, I'm going to journey with that. And then it makes my journeys better. So the more you can make links and what feels right and true for you as well, when you hit true. Barb, I thought my soul was my higher self. Yes, very, very big difference. Very big difference. In fact, the spirit and the higher self are harder to sometimes discern between, but the soul and higher self to me feel very different. Very different. Because the soul body can still be impacted. Like when people talk about knives or weapons in their field or cords or projections, think of how your soul body can get impacted. It can get bounced around. Like even Wi-Fi frequencies can get into your soul body energy and mess you up a bit until you clear it out. So the soul body needs way more clearing and kind of like work on it than the higher self doesn't get impacted like that. It's almost like, oh, and I'm going to laugh when I say this, but lowly being, I don't like Wi-Fi. What is that? Like, it's kind of like it doesn't exist in these planes. It exists in a consciousness of waveform. It's not in particle form. Our bodies are in particle form. They've come in to manifest. So yeah, the higher self doesn't have to really go there. Thanks, Rebecca. Yeah. Thanks, Emma. Yeah. Started the, oh, you started the master in Chil. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. No worries. Yeah. I've got to go to at an 11 o'clock meeting as well. So, I'm happy to stay on for another couple of minutes and then you will get the meditation to practice with it. I'd love to hear your feedback on that as well.